Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, Soren Petro, as we make our way through a busy little episode here. We're going to come up with the best support systems for the quarterbacks that are out there. We've done this for a couple of years now. Basically, we're talking about obviously the wide receivers, the running backs, the offensive line, the play caller, the head coach, the defense, pretty much everything minus the quarterback, how it all comes together and adds up to make the quarterback's job as easy as possible. Breaking down those supporting casts right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Tuesday night. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation. See your comments, thoughts, questions there in the chat room. We do it Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Gentlemen, always like to kind of assess what it was that went into this, putting together the top support system. Sam, what was your biggest takeaway from going through the process and coming up with your list?
Well, I think this probably has more change than like the quarterback rankings and the head coaching rankings that we've done over the past couple of weeks. I did the exercise basically the way that you described it in the opening, which is if I was, an NFL quarterback, which situation would I want to jump into? And it's based on I think we've all probably used the same criteria, but maybe weigh it a little bit differently as far as what wide receivers are we throwing to, who's blocking for us, who's calling the plays, and how much do I have to score based on what's my defense has given up.
Yeah. Jeff, I came up with the fact that this was hard. It's number one. Like I put in a lot more time into this than I thought I was to try to come up with a way. One, I wanted to come up with some kind of mathematical system, so I found a couple of different rankings for different stuff, and I ended up being spreadsheetville for me as I was just trying to find a way to quantify it mathematically. You can find a lot of rankings on different units and everything. It's you can even find a couple that are like, okay, here's the support thing. They don't use everything that we used. There's a lot that goes into it to try to determine this, and I don't know how accurate I'm going to be, especially when I looked at what my list was last year compared to how I think it ended up. Difficulty was what I saw, and what did you see in it?
Yeah, I didn't go back to last year, but I do agree it's really hard. And I think one thing I learned was that who the quarterback is matters a lot in how you view supporting cast, right? And so the better the quarterback, the more I scrutinized who was around him versus the lesser the quarterback, the more credit I gave to the people who were around him. And so that was an interesting way to approach it. But also I agree that overall it's a really tough task because there's a lot of teams that have put some good groups around them, but then you have to factor in injuries and age, and some guys have been arrested and are off the team now. And so all those things factor into it. But I think it's a fun exercise. I think people will enjoy what we came up with.
Yeah, I think so.
Is arrest one of the items on your spreadsheet?
Likely to be arrested is there, Sure, why not? I put that down there. All right, let's get started. Sam, you want to lead us off? I let me just make a prediction, see if anyone. I think we're all going to have the same number one.
I think so.
Yeah. I agree with you that I thought this exercise was difficult, and I actually do not recall it being this difficult last year, which I actually think is because the playing field is leveled a little bit. the exceptions right here is I just think the Rams are far and away number one. I mean, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams isn't what he once was. He's still a really good number two. They have 2 running backs and a coach that commits to the running game, which makes the play action much easier for the quarterback. Sean McVay is calling the plays. Good defense. And by the way, the Rams ranked second in the NFL in clean pocket rate a year ago. This was an easy number one.
Yeah, I had them number one as well. They jump out in all levels, like everything you want to look at. They're good everywhere. I mean, I think this is why, and they have a really good quarterback, by the way. If we're to fill that part in, this is why I think we would all agree that they're the best team going into the year. Injuries will have a lot to say with it. We'll see if Stafford's old and could break down. Devontae Adams, I agree with you, still plays at a high level, but he's getting older. There are some places where maybe it falls apart, but the supporting cast plus the quarterback, I mean, this is the number one team, and it wasn't hard to find that. Jeff, did you have the Rams number one?
Yeah, and you could probably argue this may be the best team on paper that we've seen in like 20 years. You might have to go back to like the 2007 Patriots to see a roster this loaded as far as, you mentioned Myles Garrett, Trent McDuffie coming over in that trade, Puka and Devontae and potential of Aaron Donald coming back. But, yeah, I think there's no question about it that this is on paper the strongest team we've seen in a long time. And I also feel like I threw Les Snead, their GM, into it because I do think that matters, that they've been very aggressive in going out and trying to add pieces for Matthew Stafford. And so when you go out and you sign Devontae Adams last year and you go out and make the deals for McDuffie and Garrett this year, that tells you that you're trying to maximize everything you can for your quarterback. And so that, to me, was a big part of supporting cast as well.
I think it's interesting you mentioned putting Les Snead in there. I kind of feel like, we're grading all of his work. But to your point, if I were to say, okay, here's why I would give Les Snead some credit, even if I'm like, I've already credited all his work with all the other positions that have been put together and his contributions to making sure the coach is happy and having the play caller, because the head coach is the play caller, is that they've got cap space. We talk about this roster, and so to your point, Jeff, I think it's an excellent one because of this, that if they go into the year and they have some problems and they need to make a trade and take on a little bit of salary, or somebody has a situation where they've got a contract holdout, or somebody throws a fit and they want out, like they've got the room to go add to it. They're not just like bursting at the top of the cap, like, oh, we're barely holding this together. They've got some flexibility there, and I not tons, but they could add a piece. I think that's an important part of the equation as well.
Yeah, and not every GM factored into it for me, but I just, again, the aggressiveness and the design. Like, I can't think of a GM in the last, maybe it was him back when they won it in 21, when they went and got Odell Beckham and Von Miller. But if you're Matthew Stafford, I think any quarterback in the NFL would love to be where Matthew Stafford is sitting right now with what he has around him, because it's absolutely impossible to question. It's almost like zero holes right now.
And really, that made me think that when I was doing this exercise, I try and factor this stuff into the quarterback rankings. It's why, I've seen this offseason, for example, and none of us had it this way a couple of weeks ago, but I've seen Matt Stafford ranked like first or second on some quarterback lists. I mean, ESPN just pulled some GMs, and his high ranking was higher than Allen or Mahomes on some list. And I think you've got to look at this. I mean, we just ranked it far and away the best place to play quarterback. Like, he should, if every quarterback has the exact same talent, this quarterback should put up the best numbers. This quarterback should have the most wins because of the surrounding situation.
Herein began the process now, because number 2 is where there started to be some questions, Sam. So where'd you go with number 2?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be by far the high man on this, but I have the Broncos second. I think that the Broncos had the best offensive line in football. Bo Nix is the second least pressured quarterback in the league, and Aaron Rodgers, by the way, is only first because he gets rid of the ball far quicker than anybody else because he knows he can't scramble. They've added Jalen Waddle this offseason. I still think they have some running back options at running back. And they have one of the best defenses in the league. And I just think this is – and I mean, Sean Payton's a good offensive mind. I don't think he's in the same class as McVay, but he's still a good offensive mind. I know Davis Mills technically calls the plays there, but this is a really good place to play quarterback. And if it wasn't, I think Bo Nix would get exposed a lot more than he has.
Do you have the Broncos next, Jeff? Just yes or no?
No.
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I thought I was a little bit worried. That I would be really high.
In fact, I had him too, and I was debating about a couple of things, and I'm like, well, if I go two, this will give me the chance to dump on Sam, because he always talks about how bad Bo Nix is. So how'd they get as far as they did unless everything around him is better? So I was ready to put the Broncos in, because I'm like, okay, benefit of the doubt. This will be the best counterpoint on Sam. I think everything you said is right. They got the best offensive line in football. Defense is top notch, and I think it's also a defense. It's not just statistically good, but they make game winning plays. They can get after the quarterback. The play caller is good. Wide receiving is good. They've got depth at running back. I do like their running backs. I think the Central Florida kid from last year, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Let me bring up their depth chart.
RJ Harvey.
Yeah, RJ Harvey. I still think he's a good player and is going to emerge this year. I know he didn't have a great year last year, but you back that up then with going out and bringing back J.K. Dobbins, and I like Jonah Coleman, who they drafted as well. So I think their running back group is sensational. There is no excuse, to your point. Bo Nix may be terrible, and it's just everything around him, because what couldn't the guy? What doesn't he have? I guess a better tight end maybe. But even the combination of Ingram and Troutman, I think is solid. So I don't even think they're bad there. So yeah, I think there's no excuse for Bo Nix to not play at a high level, and there's no excuse for the Broncos not being. I mean, I really honestly, I think if the Chiefs hadn't won 3 Super Bowls, in the last 6 years, the Broncos would be heavy favorites to win this division. They should be heavy favorites to win this division. It's just the Patrick Mahomes name and Andy Reid name, but the Broncos should be heavy favorites when you look at this, unless Bo Nix just flat out sucks. So I've got the Broncos too. Where do you go, Jeff?
Well, I think just one real quick thing to add to that. I think that feeds into their offensive total yards numbers and points per game is the Broncos are second in the NFL in forcing 3 and outs, and their defense gives up the 4th fewest plays per drive. So you're getting the ball a lot when you have this offense. There's a lot of opportunity to gain yards. There's a lot of opportunity to put up points because your defense gets off the field quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Jeff, where are you at number 2, since you don't have you're the lone wolf without Denver?
Yeah, well, it was hard for me to pass up Seattle. And you guys have mentioned defense, and they had the best defense in the league at the end of the year. And still most of those guys are back. And that's a big factor for me, the way they've built that unit. They're deep. They're talented. They're strong on the back end, so they can deal with the likes of the Matthew Staffords and everybody else in the NFC they have to see. And I know that they lost Kenneth Walker and Clint Kubiak is gone, but I believe that Mike McDowell has going to become one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL. John Schneider, again, a GM, is a factor for me here because he made some moves last year, bringing in Rashid Shaheed to help that team out. And so knowing you need some more weapons for your quarterback was a big factor in them winning a championship. But look at their receiving core. JSN, the Offensive Player of the Year. Cooper Kupp, even though he's aging, is still a pretty talented player, a reliable veteran. And then you've got Shaheed in there as well. We'll see what happens with Charbonnet, but they drafted Jadarian Price. I feel like their offensive line is pretty solid. I don't see a lot of holes here, and I think people underestimate their chemistry. So Sam Darnold winning a championship, nobody was predicting that for him at any stage of his career. For him to have one, it speaks to the guys around him.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I had do we want to reveal where we had somebody else here, or we'll just wait till we get to them and address them there? I have them in my top 7. I can put.
Oh yeah, Broncos are in my top 7. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, but for Seattle,
okay.
They're in my top 7. Are they in your top 7, Sam?
No, they're not.
They're not. Okay,
wow.
That'll be interesting.
But I really thought they're definitely among the teams I considered for this. And
others receiving votes, they made that list.
Well, and I was going to say, my 5th and on, I thought all barely made the list.
Okay.
And that, I think, was the difference from a year ago where I tried to stuff maybe 8 teams in the top 7. After the top 4, I felt like I had 5 or 6 other teams I was considering for the final 3 spots, and they were one of those. Okay,
that's good. That's interesting to note. So we'll see that when we make the turn there to get to that point where it's a big drop off. All right, we'll take a break. We come back. We've got 3 through 7 best supporting cast coming up next. If your property needs asphalt or concrete work, Gann Asphalt and Concrete is ready to help you. From parking lots and drive lanes to sidewalks, curbs, patching, seal coating, crack filling, and repairs, their experienced crews handle projects of all sizes throughout the entire Kansas City metro. Whether you're fixing problem areas or planning a larger paving project, GAN focuses on quality workmanship and dependable service from start to finish. No matter what shape your pavement is in today, they can help improve it. Request a free estimate and learn more at GANAsphalt.com. GAN Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. All right, let's pick up at number 3. Sam, you've got Rams Broncos. Who comes in at number 3 for you?
I've got the 49ers third. And I think the best argument here is that Kyle Shanahan made Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy paid near the top of the market. And neither one of those guys are top of the market talents. I mean, we just ranked the quarterbacks, and I think you had Brock Purdy the highest of any of us, but still maybe had him like 8th or something like that. And I didn't have him in my top 10. And if they're still producing points the way they are, they've got a pretty good thing going. But Kyle Shanahan's, the primary reason. But the roster also has enough too. I mean, Purdy had the most time to throw in the league last year, and only played 9 games, so the data is a little bit of a smaller sample size. They only took 11 sacks in 9 games, despite holding the ball longer than any quarterback in the league. Like, they have a good offensive line. I know their skill position is not exactly young, but they do have guys that have been around and done it successfully. I mean, Mike Evans, they added this year. They added Christian Kirk. They've got George Kittle. They've got Christian McCaffrey. Theoretically, those could turn into 3 Hall of Famers they've got in the skill position. So it's a spot I'd want to play quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the wide receivers, because it's a different group, a different kind of wide receiver group with some guys coming in from other teams to try to piece it all together. Jeff, where did you go at number 3?
I went to the Eagles with your favorite head coach, Nick Sirianni. And,
coach is the lead reason?
Well, I just like to hear your reaction when I say his name. You get all sick and bristle. But you think about Jalen Hurts has been leading one of the worst passing offenses in the NFL the last 2 years. They've won a championship 2 years ago with that, and they won their division again, broke that streak of teams repeating as NFC East champions, the first team to do it in 20 years. And so that has a lot to do with what they have around him. And even though they lost A.J. Brown, I'd look at Saquon Barkley, who took a step back, but still, I think, a top back in this league. You look at Devontae Smith, you look at Dallas Goedert. They'd have a high expectations for a couple of rookies, and Mekhi Lemon, the receiver, and like Stowers, the tight end. They lost Jeff Stoutland, their run game coordinator, one of the best offensive line coaches, but their offensive line is still really strong. And then Vic Fangio plays into this for me in terms of how he runs that defense. That was one of the best defenses in the NFL again. Made a strong trade for Jonathan Grenard to help the pass rush out. We've got some really top-end corners in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So, to me, they've got everything you want to be able to help a quarterback who's not been lighting it up still win games.
Yeah. I have the Philadelphia Eagles number 3 as well. Not because of the head coach, but because of the offensive line, defense, running back. I still think the receivers are they throw a first-round draft pick in when they lose A.J. Brown. I think there's good talent here. The O-line is the biggest part of it. I mean, that's just makes it so much easier for him to succeed. And I do think Hurts is good, but not great. But I think some of the things that he's even good at, the tush push, the success they've had with that is largely because of the positions around him. One, the threat of the running back in the backfield with the even now, like, last year they introduced that, the fake tush push and then hand off, which went for a touchdown. I think that might even have been a reverse that they did off of that. So there is a little bit of creativity still there, but I think the Eagles have proven, that especially if you look at the way it worked last time, lose Super Bowl, change coordinators, come up short, then put it together back to the Super Bowl. This year was kind of the step back, and we'll see if they can rinse and repeat and come back at it. But the Eagles are still a really strong team, much to my chagrin. But the bulk of it is an offensive line, and it's not quite as good as it was, the tush push, but close to a cheat code for short yardage. I think is a great situation to be in if you're a quarterback. If you know you're always going to get a new fresh set of downs, he's a big part of it. Don't get me wrong, but I think the Eagles are still really, really tough. So I've got them at number 3. Sam, where'd you go for number 4?
I've got the Lions 4th. I actually thought that I might be lower than you guys on this. Jahmyr Gibbs is as good as any running back in the game. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best 4 or 5 slot receivers in the game. Jamison Williams, one of the better deep threats in the game. And I think based on those 3 guys, you would say, okay, skill position, like why not rank them first? Why not rank them second on this list behind the Rams? I've got questions about their play calling, and so does Dan Campbell, by the way, because he took it over mid-season last year. And their offensive line, I think, has a few more questions with Decker, leaving, and then you've got to move Sewell to the left side. So the Lions definitely aren't the finished product I think they were last year. By the way, I had the Eagles 1 and the Lions 2, I think, last year when I looked at this. And I wonder, and this is a conversation probably for another day, but I wonder if the Lions have perhaps missed their window because the offensive line didn't protect quite as well last year. Like I said, missing their left tackle. Ben Johnson, I think we may learn more and more as it gets further and further away from his time in Detroit, how much of an imprint he had on that offense.
Yeah. I have what you had last year. You kind of remember. Do you want to know what you had?
I thought I had like the
Buccaneers,
Eagles, Bucks, and Lions. I thought were my top 3, maybe.
Bucks, Eagles, Vikings, Lions.
Yeah.
Vikings.
You were high on the Bucks.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, I don't know that any of us are going to be bragging about what we put up there last year. That's one of the reasons why maybe I grinded harder this year. Like, I don't think I did a very good job last year. I had Eagles, Vikings, Lions, Ravens. Jeff had Ravens, Eagles, Vikings, Lions. So, yeah, I had the Bucks at 5. Jeff had them at 7.
Well, these aren't team rankings. Like, to be honest.
I think a big theme for yours was Todd Bowles can't coach, so everything else around him must be really good.
Well, one of the teams will come up later, so I'll make the point then.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you had the Lions at 4. I'll go next because I too have the Lions at 4. I don't have the play caller down as part of it, but man, what a wide receiving core. I do think Penny Sewell's going to be fine over on the left side. He should be. It's going to be a real disappointment if he's not because you ought to be able to make that switch. That's why they drafted him. There is concern there, though. They drafted him to play left tackle, tried him at left tackle, and it didn't work. So they put him back over on the right side. So there is a little bit of fear there, but man, great running back. I do think the head coach is an advantage. Certainly over the long haul, he's an advantage. Maybe in any one game, his 4th down aggressiveness might end up being a problem. Maybe not knowing when to take his foot off the gas pedal. I tend to think it's more like they're committed to that, and I think it works more than it hurts, and they play the numbers. And so I like the way he approaches that. I think Dan Campbell, not necessarily as a play caller, but as a head coach, and the tone that he sets, the confidence that he builds, I do think that is a real positive for the Lions and for Jared Goff to have all of that out there. So, and then defensively, they're not god awful. So I think, I think the Lions, I think Jared Goff's in a pretty good situation with all the things he has. And I had him at number 4 as well. Where'd you go for number 4, Jeff?
I went Broncos, and actually I'll do 5 too, because I went Lions. So I'll just double up here since you guys have already echoed some of the things I've already said. But the Broncos, for everything you guys had said, I do think Bo Nick, without that supporting cast, probably would be hoping to stay in the league by now, given his skill set. And so I think that the trade for Waddle was a huge addition for them. I think Cortland Sutton still got something left in the tank. I like the receiving core a lot. I like the versatility, the diversity of it, a lot of different weapons, even though they're not big name guys. I do have questions about the tight end. I do have questions about the run game. I thought they should have probably invested more, knowing J.K. Dobbins' history of injury. And those 2 areas made it a little higher for me to go higher with them. But you look at Sean Payton and you look at what's around them and where they got last year with Bo Nix at quarterback, it's hard to go against them. And with the Lions, same thing. Tons of weapons. I'll push back on Penei Sewell because I think he was playing right tackle because Taylor Decker was there at left tackle for a long time. It wasn't more of a skill thing as much as it was just a need. But they've got some holes now in the interior they got to shore up. And for me, the secondary, just Brian Branch is hurt. Kirby Joseph is hurt. And then obviously Terry Arnold is off the team now after he got arrested. So that made it a little hard to go with them. But they're still super wildly talented on offense.
By the way, just to go back, because you covered a lot of ground, did you say Bo Nix would be trying to stay in the league right now, if not for with the Broncos?
If he was with a lesser team, I don't know if he would be. I think we'd be talking about him like we're talking about J.J. McCarthy. Like he's just not.
Then shouldn't the Broncos be higher?
Yeah, they're 4. Yeah, but the teams above them, I think, are more talented.
I mean, 4 out of 32 is
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. It is. My exception is with being that down on Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't our quarterback conversation, so I had to push back.
But he wasn't like Jeff's rankings did not have Bo Nix high either. I think he was 18, 19 on your rankings as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the two guys in front of him, Jalen Hurts, the way he's played the last couple of years with his numbers, and Sam Darnold, I think I'm making more of a case for them having won championships with the guys playing quarterback the way they've played quarterback than what Bo Nix has been able to. I mean, I'll put it this way, Bo Nix has talent, but I think he looks better because of where he's at. On a lesser team, he might be Sam Darnold like 7 years ago.
Okay. I'm going to say that I have, just because I know this is a big one for Sam, because after this, he's made it clear that between 5 and the rest, there's a separation. So we'll save the drama on that, and I'll say I have Seattle at 5. Jeff laid it out very well when he put him at number 2. But defense, and I think the head coach has proven himself. When you can step in and play the way they played, usually there's a regression. You usually get a kiss your first year and you regress. They didn't regress. They exceeded the expectations. That's a great sign for them and where they're at. I had him very high in my coach rankings, and so I think he clearly knows what he's doing. He's got the program going in the right direction. Do love the wide receivers that they've got there in Seattle, and I think that's a great situation for him. The running back is a big question, and are they going to be able to do it the way they did last year? I would tend to think that their running game we're going to find out is more of a mindset, and that they're going to be pretty good with whoever they plug and play with. Right there, we may be disappointed in Kansas City that, oh, wow, they're running the ball just like they did last year, and this isn't quite as good as we thought it was going to be, to which we'll pivot to the play callers here in Kansas City. So, yeah, I've got Seattle at number 5, so I've got another retread, and this is interesting. So, Sam, we got a chance here before you have a gap to say Kansas City Chiefs. No one has said Kansas City Chiefs yet. So I'm curious if you're going to put the supporting cast of the Kansas City Chiefs in there at number 5, or are they in the part where it's like, slide them down?
I think you're accusing Sam of taking drugs now.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are not 5th on my list. No.
I'm trying to build some drama here. It is the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. So.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. There's 2 spots after 5.
Okay. Who you got at number 5 then, Sam?
I've got the Bears 5th. And I think they've got a great 1-2 at tight end with Loveland and Kmet. They had a great offensive line. Now their left tackle got hurt in the playoffs. Their center retired. So I wonder how that is going to be solved. But a lot of this to me goes to Ben Johnson. And I think you saw the improvement he made on the offense just the last 2 years. I mean, Caleb Williams had the second most time to throw in the league last year. His sack rate went down considerably. They run the ball effectively, which really helps out a quarterback. The defense had a good year last year. And a little bit of this is banking on some second-year stuff. Ben Johnson having a second year in Chicago, he's not teaching anymore. It's now being able to layer some stuff on that I think is going to help the quarterback as well.
Okay. All right. We have not gotten to the Kansas City Chiefs. Will they make the top 7 on our lists? We're counting it down 1 through 7. The best supporting cast for the quarterback. We will get to the where are we at now? We'll be at Yeah, number 5, number 6.
Six for
Number
all
6.
of us, yeah.
Number 6 when we come back. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight.
Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Your parking lot says a lot about your business. Cracks, potholes, faded striping, and damaged concrete can create safety concerns and leave the wrong impression with customers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete helps Kansas City businesses protect their properties with asphalt paving, seal coating, crack filling, parking lot striping, concrete work, and repairs. Their experienced crews deliver quality workmanship and dependable service on every project. Whether you need routine maintenance or a complete parking lot overhaul, Gann is ready to help you. Get started today with a free estimate at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lots. All right, ready with number 6 here on the list, Sam. Where are you going? You had the Bears at 5. Where are you going now for your big drop-off team, the best of the rest?
Yeah, this fits into. By the way, it was 5 and on that I thought was I thought the drop off happened after 4. Number six,
my bad.
Number fits into the conversation where we date back to last year. I still have the Vikings 6th on this list.
Okay,
and I realize that may sound out of left field given the year that they had, but I still think Justin Jefferson is a top 2 receiver in the league. Jordan Addison is a good number 2. Hawkinson's a pretty good tight end. And they have a great offensive mind at head coach. Now, the issue is the offensive line. By the way, they have a good defense, too. Like, Brian Flores is coaching a good defense there, too. At the end of the day, I thought J.J. McCarthy looked like the worst starting quarterback in the NFL last year, and he still went 6-4. They've actually started 8 quarterbacks in the last 3 years. And J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, Sam Darnold, Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, and Kirk Cousins all finished at least 500. Like, if those guys can play quarterback in the system, it sort of reminds me of that Bruce Arians line. Like, if I can win with these guys, I could really have something going with a good quarterback. And by the way, Bruce Arians was right, because then you replace Winston with Tom Brady and he wins a Super Bowl. To me, it feels like this could have that sort of flavor to it. But then you're going to be talking about Kyler Murray again this year instead of having one of those Pro Bowl caliber guys.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have the Vikings just missing, but I don't think you're way off with this. I agree with everything you said about the Vikings. I have them just outside the top 7. I'll say this: I've got them at number 8. They're the first team that just missed that we've talked about so far. So, Jeff, who do you have at number 6?
49ers.
Yeah,
and I
me
think
too.
About. I think the biggest testament to them is just that all the injuries they had last year, and they still made the playoffs, which just speaks to what you have on your roster. And we know Kyle Shanahan's a great coach and what he's done throughout his career. But again, they were winning games with backup quarterbacks. They were winning games with backup running backs, winning games. They lost Nick Bosa, lost Fred Warner. All those guys come back. Now, that was a factor in them not being higher, was that some of these guys had major injuries. When you talk about the ACL, the Bosa, and Warner's ankle injury, that's a big thing for me to consider. The age of Trent Williams, even though he's still playing at a high level, the age of George Kittle, who was banged up a lot last year, the age of Christian McCaffrey, all these guys are getting older, but they're still big names. And when they play at a high level. And so you got that many studs in your lineup. It's hard to not put them in the top 7.
Yeah, I've got the 49ers there as well. I do have bigger questions. I mean, I Trent Williams, you just you can write him down for 10 games. I'm going to say this, this is a desperate season for the 49ers. Yeah. Like, when you're throwing money at a 36, 37-year-old left tackle that's not coming close to playing all the games. This isn't Anthony Munoz. This isn't Jackie Slater. This isn't even the Rams, the guy who does Amazon Prime games now. Whitworth. This isn't even Andrew Whitworth. This isn't a guy who's defying father time and, is maybe not the athlete he was, but has all the tricks in the bag. This guy's getting dinged all the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're further down on my list is I don't know what you can expect from it. I also wonder, like, they've now had Deebo Samuel shoot his way out. Brandon Ayuk is just lighting fire to everything that's going on. The entire city is bashing the drafting and the general manager, and Kyle Shanahan has a voice in that as well. Like, how much is everybody completely bought into into what they're doing there? Like, if they would anybody be shocked if they went 6-11 if it like fell apart and it was one of those bad, the Niners used to be every other year. Well, they've had a couple in a row that were pretty good, but if they bottomed out this year, would anybody be surprised?
No,
I wouldn't.
No, they're like I think, like Sam said, the window's closing for them pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if if like surprised but shocked. I think there's a separation there because I am ranking the supporting cast, and I didn't have Brock Purdy as a top. I think I may have had him like 14th or something like that. So when you're dealing with that quarterback, and you're right about the age. I mean, I even mentioned it despite ranking him third because it is a question. I mean, we don't know that Mike Evans is going to play. We don't know for sure that Trent Williams is going to be healthy or George Kittle's going to be healthy. And by the way, Christian McCaffrey made it through last year. He also carried or touched the ball at an NFL record pace to where you do wonder how he's going to come back the ensuing year. We saw it with Larry Johnson in Kansas City. After he touched the ball a ton, there's an effect the next year. So, like I said, I'm sort of arguing against ranking him high, but there are ways that this could fall apart in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it could fall apart in a big way. But I still do like, if they are all healthy, they're really good. And so the health is like one of the big things that's here. If Mike Evans can be healthy, I think he'll still do his thing at the goal line. He'll be effective. I still think there's pretty good talent there. McCaffrey and Kittle are a great combination to have. So, but health is going to be giant for the San Francisco 49ers. All right. Still no Kansas City Chiefs. One more spot on our list of top 7. Sam, did you put the Chiefs in there?
No, I didn't put the Chiefs in there.
Oh,
to be honest, and by the way, the other thing on the 49ers, they are next to the substation or whatever it is. So
that's right.
The health is even a bigger issue there, apparently. I have let me count the teams I have considering for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I considered 6 teams.
Me too.
For this spot. And so when I felt like they were all pretty close, I just decided if I'm the quarterback and I'm in trouble, whether that's because my defense stinks, my play calling stinks, my offensive line isn't great, who do I want on my side? And I ended up deciding that I want Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on my side. So I've got the Bengals 7th because I think Jamar Chase is the most complete wide receiver in the game. And I think T. Higgins is the best number 2 in the game. By the way, Chase Brown caught like 60, 65 passes last year. Like, he's a good receiving option as a running back as well. I don't know that this is the best spot to win games. This is a top probably like 4 spot to put up numbers, though. It may even be number like 2 just to put up flat out numbers as a quarterback. But like I said, those 2 guys are hard to beat.
That's a good point to make for it. The Bengals did not crack my top 12. I will state that. Were they in consideration for you, Jeff?
Oh yeah, they were in there. I mean, because Joe Burrow's been hyping it up, right? He's been talking about the last time he was this high on an offense was when he was at LSU with those guys and Justin Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they went nuts. And so they're hard not to pick because of those weapons. My concerns were just the defense, and they added a lot of bodies, and they did play better down the stretch. But it's hard for me to go there when it comes to supporting cast because it puts so much pressure on him year in and year out to put up points. I don't know if that's a great situation. If it happens again, he's going to be under pressure to put up points. I went with
just one thing real quick. They've gotten a lot of mileage off one playoff run. I mean,
it was 2 playoff runs, wasn't it?
2 playoff runs. They went to they were tied with the Chiefs with like a minute and a half left and the next year in the AFC Championship game.
That's fair. All right, 2 playoff runs. They're getting a lot of mileage. They've got some really rough years in there as well. But okay. All right. Where'd you go, Jeff?
Same division, different team that didn't make the playoffs, the Ravens. And Sam made a great point about what would you want to have if things ain't going great for you. And Derrick Henry is still proving he's a good guy to have. Things aren't going right. And the Ravens had some a lot of injuries, issues with Lamar Jackson, and they were able to hand the football to Derrick Henry a lot and still have him deliver and keep them in contention. And so I don't know if he can keep doing it at his age now. He's getting up there, but the last couple of years he's proven to still be maybe the best backfield made a quarterback could have in this league. And so I like Zay Flowers. I think Rashad Bateman's underrated. Mark Andrews is still productive. Offensive line will miss Tyler Linderbaum. But the defense is what encourages me here, because I think with Jesse Minter coming in to be the head coach and Anthony Weaver coming back to be the defensive coordinator, you bring in Trey Hendrickson. You already got guys like Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. I think there's a potential for that defense to get back to being top 5 in the league. And if Lamar gets that with the other weapons, and Derrick Henry stays where he's been, I think that's a pretty tough. I think they're back in the playoffs with that group.
That's interesting. Lamar came in. Lamar was, I think, on the players on your network, right, Jeff? Where the players picked the top 100. Didn't he just come in at like 69 or something? I bring that up to say, is that do we, if the cast is good enough to be on this top 7, do we think that Lamar played that bad last year that's why they didn't?
Well, I think because he was hurt, right? I mean, that was the big factor, right? What did he miss? 6 games, 7 games? Something like that.
I don't think he missed that many. I didn't think it was that many.
Yeah, because that's always. I'm assuming that's always based on how you're producing that year, not like what kind of player you are in general.
I think that the players do not. I think we spent more time for this podcast than the players spent ranking their top 100 players.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that too.
Played in 13 games, 6 and 7 as a starter last year. 21 touchdowns, 7 INTs.
Yeah.
He may have walked out of a couple of those games where it's like, okay, he started 13, but he really only played about 11 or something.
Yeah, like the Chiefs game was that way, right?
Yeah. But yeah, interesting. All right, my number 7 is the Chicago Bears. Great play caller. I think the O-line's now a strength. Great tight ends. Running backs are good. Wide receivers, I think, are emerging. There's some good young talent. The wide receivers, they could, second years or big years for wideouts, and really for a couple of them, even Odunze, who's been injured a lot. I think there's a chance still for some growth for him. So I like what the Chicago Bears have going on. I think it's a big year for Ben Johnson. He clearly can scheme it. We saw he's got kind of a bombastic approach to leading. There's a little bit of Nick Sirianni maybe in him and how he does it. Is that going to fuel this team and take them to the next level? Or is it going to be something that they have kind of a regression year before jumping back up there? Like I mentioned with Seattle, they got even better. They're coached a different style, more old school style, but I think it's a big year for Ben Johnson. If they're, 12-5, then this guy's a rock star. This is, one of the guys that's going to be there for a long time. I also think you can give a lot of credit to him because of how much Caleb Williams turned around under him, that the play calling, the play designing is really good with the Chicago Bears. So I have the Bears at number 7. So you're the only one with the Bengals. Jeff, you're the only one with the Ravens. And I have no one new. One of you guys all have the teams that I have. So I think that's of note. Who was your number 3, Jeff? Because I did something screwy when I put it in there.
We had the same number 3.
3 was the Eagles. Okay. All right. Because somehow that got messed up. I want to make sure I got accurate records. All right. So none of us had the Kansas City Chiefs. So Sam, where'd you sit? Did they make it in others receiving votes? Did you give any thought to the Chiefs making this list?
I gave some thought. They were not in that other group I was considering for number 7. I mean, look, you guys had 2 teams that I didn't have on there, which was the Seahawks and the Eagles. I think both of those have taken pretty considerable step back from last year as it pertains to a supporting cast. I mean, losing Kenneth Walker and Clint Kubiak is huge in Seattle. That is why Seattle was good, in addition to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And they still have JSN, but like Kenneth Walker and Clint Kubiak were 2 huge pieces. And the Eagles surprises me a little bit how high you guys had them ranked, because A.J. Brown is their number 1 weapon on offense in the wide receiver room. Saquon Barkley took a big step back last year. He's going to be 30 before the Super Bowl this year. And their offensive line coach was noted as the best in the league and is gone. Still teams I considered. I don't think it's outrageous to rank them, but I didn't consider having them that high. The other teams I think are pretty clearly ahead of the Chiefs. Cowboys have 2 great wide receiver weapons, a good offensive line. I think I'd rank the Bills ahead of them because their offensive line, and they have, also a running back that can catch the ball. But I put them in sort of that category as the Bills, because the thing that the Chiefs do have going is they had the second best pass block win rate in football last year. And they added Kenneth Walker this year. And we all have questions about their wide receiver room. And I think if we were just ranking this based on the wide receivers, we'd rank the Chiefs, Jeff? Bottom 6, bottom 7 in the league, just based on receivers. And so that's what makes it basically, to me, impossible to put them in this top 7.
I think it's interesting. Last year, Sam, you had the Chiefs 8, basically the first team to not make the list. We did go ahead and put numbers by it, below it. You had them at 8, Jeff had them at 9, and I had them at 8. So we all had them in the same spot, just missing the list here. But I don't have them as high this year, which is interesting to look at and try to understand what I missed so bad on last year, because Kenneth Walker does improve them. The question is Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown leaving, and or the age of Travis Kelce? Because if I look at it last year versus this year, I think they're going to be better on the offensive line, because I think Simmons has a chance to be healthier, and it's the second year for Kingsley Suamati at left guard. So I think the offensive line should perform better. I think the running back is definitively better. I think all the running backs, the depth of the running backs are better. Sam, you've made the point. I do worry about how they're going to convert on short yardage, because Kareem Hunt did a great job on that. But overall, the running backs are better. The wideouts, if you said worse, yes, you could counter that and say, well, Rashee Rice, no suspension. Therefore, we think we're going to get good Rashee Rice. That's a case to be made that they haven't lost anything at wideout. But I'm more down on the Chiefs this year, and I like what they had, and that's. If you look at the Jeremy Fowler, where he calls all the executives and they're ranking the top 10 at each position, the Chiefs dropped at everything. Creed Humphrey went from the number 1 interior offensive lineman to like number 3. Trey Smith went from 4 to 7. Chris Jones went from 2 D tackle to 4. Who else dropped? Pat dropped from 1 to 2. I'm trying to think of any of the returners. Nick Bolton dropped from the number 3 off-ball linebacker to number 8. So there were drops all over the place. And is that just a matter of, when you lose, we ding everybody, or did everybody get worse? And I wonder if I'm just guilty. Like, I'm sitting here, when I look at what I did wrong in 25, I'm wondering, am I overreacting to 25? And maybe I wasn't that far off last year, and I should be giving more credit to your point, Sam, with what Kenneth Walker is going to do for this team and how much better he's going to make it look. I think that's an interesting equation, because I think can we agree we're all more down off having them 8 or 9 last year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not even in my top 14. I got like 7 other teams that are better than them on paper. But on 25, they're coming off a 15-2 season, right? So that's going to make them look a lot better. But ultimately, some of the guys you mentioned are just getting older and showing more warts, like Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. And I don't know if Creed Humphrey deserved to drop the way he fell in those rankings, but yeah, but Trey Smith didn't have a great year last year. And so the problem that I have with the Chiefs putting him on this kind of a list is that the star power is just not there. And so you're asking a lot of players in a lot of key positions to play at a high level with a lot of questions around them. Like, aside from the quarterback, who's got a question around him, even. Like, how many guys on this team can you say, I know that guy's going to go out and play at a high level? There's just not that many of them. And that's what makes it hard to pick a supporting cast that you like from them.
I think when you look at the Chiefs and the adjustments that they've made, you keep falling back to the same answer, which is, in order for this offense to improve, it's going to have to be a scheme change, or at least like a scheme priority change. And they're going to have to run the ball more. They're going to have to run the ball differently. And given the fact that they already needed to do that this last year, now in 25, they didn't have the talent to execute that plan, even if they had come up with that plan in training camp. Their backfield just didn't have enough talent to execute it. But I think we're all in the same bucket of believing that they realize they need to do it, but still waiting to see if they actually make the change before jumping on board and saying, okay, now the Chiefs offense is operating differently, for 2 reasons. I mean, Andy Reid has loved it. He was one of the first coaches in the NFL that was passing the ball more than he was throwing it on 1st and 10 and 2nd and 10 and 3rd and short even. And the second reason is you still have Patrick Mahomes, and it's still going to be hard because every time you hand the ball off, you're taking him out of the play and the execution of the play. And so I'm still in I'll believe it when I see it mindset with that, even though I do think there will be an adjustment, but whether or not it's a large enough adjustment to make everything else work the way that it should.
And I would even say the scheme is super critical, because I look at the teams in my, missing the cut, and it was the Bears, and it was the Bills, and the Texans, and the Bengals, and the Patriots, the Packers, and the Cowboys. Most of those teams have a player who can just dominate a game outside the quarterback. And the Chiefs don't have a player like that anymore. If you got the Bills, James Cook can take over a game. If Tucker Kraft, the guy from the pass rusher from the Cowboys, why am I switching on his name?
Quentin Williams, or
no, the Penn State kid, the Dallas guy who came from the Cowboys.
That went to Green Bay.
Yeah,
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons, yeah, or AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Those
shouldn't you have Atlanta? Shouldn't you have Bijan on that list then? Because he was there. Atlanta was a team I considered because of that. I actually think that's a great point, Jeff. Just that overall point of, if not the quarterback, who else can take the reins here? And you're right. The Chiefs have to rely on scheme to say, you've got to give the ball to Kenneth Walker then. A lot more than you've given it to your backs in the past.
And is he that kind of player? Like, good player, but is he that kind of player? We haven't seen that from him.
I think this season, and I really need training camp to get going so I can stop saying this, because I want to come up with something fresh to say, but so much of this is on Andy Reid. I mean, to your point, like I just think schematically they got stale. I do think the running back position was a disaster. I mean, I think we're going to see that when Isaiah Pacheco gets in the game in Detroit, people are going to be like, why is this happening? Right. And he may not get in the game. Like, if you're a fantasy player, take Jahmyr Gibbs, because they can't possibly put Isaiah Pacheco on the field and think they're going to get what they get out of Jahmyr Gibbs. And so, but a little bit of that is like, did Andy Reid just start to, I talk about it all the time, success, you start to buy your own bullshit. And was that where it was? Where he's like, no, we like Isaiah, he's a good kid. Was that why they weren't addressing the running back position? You make the case. I listen, for 1 year, I don't mind that they didn't really address the wide receiver with any kind of major input by draft pick or dollar, but not 2 years. Right. And so I wondered, did Andy Reid just go, no, it's all right, I'll scheme it up, we'll get it done, or we can pass whatever we want. And now at wide receiver, he's like, no, I'll scheme it up. Like, the personnel issues that are there, they're always going to have personnel issues when you have Pat Mahomes' contract that you got to carry. But, how much of, listen, I know there's a real reputation from talking to people that have left this organization that, Andy wants his guys. And so I think Andy Reid is the biggest reason why they carry all these highest paid contracts at these positions, is because Andy Reid, I don't think, wants to mess with the part about, he wants more scheme and more, let's get more stuff on there. And if I bring in a new guy, I might have to dumb it down a little bit. And we want to add more of my napkins. Here are my plays, and let's do that. And I think sometimes you do have to dial it back, and because you're bringing in new people and getting younger. So I think this year is about Andy Reid. I know the outside world's going to say it's about Patrick Mahomes' knee. It's about Andy Reid. Like, this is the defining moment for Andy Reid. And that is a big part of the supporting cast for this, is Andy Reid has to reinvent himself and be honest with what he has on the field. And he has to be honest about what they have on the field when it gets to the off seasons as well.
Yeah. Well, you know what is a curse and a blessing of Andy throughout this whole time he's been here is that Travis Kelce was not some blue chip prospect coming out of college. Tyreek Hill wasn't some blue chip prospect coming out of college. All these running backs, Damian Williams, the guys like that, Charkandrick West, if they went and found Turner or something, you do that enough times, you start thinking you got this magic wand. And I think he's still waving that magic wand at players and saying, we'll get him in here and we'll scheme it up and they'll be stud players for us. And that goes away at some point.
They are, but they're paying the offensive line, like that. So that, yeah.
Yeah, but what they're putting behind them is the problem.
Oh, I totally agree with you that's my buying your own BS. I mean, like, you start to feel like, okay, no, I want it to happen, therefore it will. I can literally win with anybody.
Can I point out, though, those guys you mentioned had a commonality trait that made them successful. When you talk about the running backs who were not sought by other teams, Damian Williams was cut. Darrell Williams was undrafted free agent. The Chiefs were the only team offering Jerick McKinnon a contract. But those three guys could all do the same thing. They could help the passing game. They were all great in the passing game. Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, and Jerick McKinnon were terrific assets in the passing game because of pass pro and because they could catch. Isaiah Pacheco was not that. And Kareem Hunt was too old to be that guy. And he was still playing on third downs last year. And by the way, there's questions about whether Kenneth Walker can be that guy in the receiving game, which is another reason why this feeds back into the point that all three of us have made, which is you've got personnel now that's going to force your hand on changing the scheme. And if you want to make this, to me, that's what this exercise actually did is show who's making life easier for the quarterback. And none of us are putting the Chiefs on the list as making life easy for the quarterback. I think I would have had the Chiefs when I looked at it about 14th, 13th, 14th, somewhere around that. And it's all based on the fact that the offensive line has gotten a lot of resources put into them.
I had the Chiefs at 10. They made my list of those. I consider the Chiefs at 10 because one, I know it sounds like I'm running down Andy Reid like he doesn't know what he's doing. I think it's entirely possible we watch this offense click and Andy Reid is just kind of reinvented what he's done. I think it's entirely possible for him to go out and do what he needs to do. I think there's an element of it's less likely when he's 67. Right. I think that's an element of it. But I think Rashee Rice, you've long been the I don't want to say protector, but I think you've called out the abilities of Rashee Rice, Sam, I think very well. He is a talented guy. And I think Kenneth Walker is a big upgrade. So, and I think defensively they have good personnel. I won't be shocked if this defense has a really good year. I think there's the potential for them to be better this year, even with the cornerbacks that they lost. I think they could be significantly better up front, and if they're better up front, I said this today to Curtis. I said they're 15-2. They're headed into the playoffs. They're the 1 seed. They've gotten back to being the team to beat. What does it look like? And my answer to that question was it's a lights out defense and then an offense that grinds with the running game and wears you down. And I don't think it looks like it ever has. I think it looks completely different. It looks a little bit like that championship they won in Vegas where they got it going at the end and the defense was really carrying them and they, hold the Ravens scoreless in the second half of the AFC Championship game. It's a little bit of that. Like, I think it's a lot of defense and then it's Andy Reid playing to his defense, which when again, that was they're 15-2. Let's just put them there and say, how did they get there? Let's work backwards. It's not a prediction that they're going to go 15-2. I actually don't think it'll look like that. I think they'll swing and miss on it, but that's what I think it would have to take for him to get there. All right. Anyone else you want to mention before we get out of here? No other team?
No, I mentioned my teams. I mean, again, I think it's what made it hard was that there wasn't a lot of balance in this league. And so I think that's what makes it tough. But two, I mean, like, again, a team like the Bills, like Sam mentioned, the run game and the offensive line, the Texans with their defense, what they can do, that defense carried them for most of the season and in the playoffs. And so it's just a lot of good teams. That's why it's the whole thing you just said about the Chiefs, it's hard to see them having that kind of run, not a 15-2 run, but even to win the division is going to be tough. Because there's a lot of good teams out there who are really in good position to do some big things this year, too.
The Texans is an interesting one because it's showing how much are you valuing just winning as opposed to enjoying playing the position.
Yeah.
Because if it's just enjoying playing the positions, the Texans might be like second to last on my list.
Yeah.
But if you just want to win games, you have a lot of help from the defense to win games. The only team that we haven't mentioned at all that I think would have been about 14th on my list, but it was still one that I studied pretty hard was the Colts. I mean, you've got Jonathan Taylor, which is a great running game. Their offensive line was ranked top 5 in almost every metric last year. So you got the running back, you've got a good offensive line. I think they've got a pretty good head coach as well. Like, there's a reason that Daniel Jones was 8-2 at one point last year, and I don't think it was because Daniel Jones had completely reinvented himself.
Listen, if you want to support the Red, Gold, and Bold, support our great sponsors, Gann Asphalt and Concrete, helping Kansas City businesses maintain safe, professional-looking properties. If you need asphalt paving, crack sealing, concrete repairs, or parking lot striping, Gann delivers quality work you can trust. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And our buddy Renee is in the chat room today. His great restaurant, Italian Delight. First restaurant to bring New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. You can buy a slice, sell it by the slice as well. Stromboli's, calzones, sausage rolls, hot and cold subs, lasagna, Check out their daily lunch special starting at under $10. They're just a few miles east of the Speedway on State Ave, 8145 State Avenue, online at ItalianDelightKS.com. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.